The sun was just beginning to rise over the sleepy town of Clearwater, casting a golden hue on the river that wound its way through the valley. At the edge of the riverbank, beneath the shadow of a stone bridge, sat a woman wrapped in layers of tattered blankets. Her name was Marla. Once a schoolteacher, life had unraveled slowly, first a tragedy, then a job loss, and finally homelessness. She had lived by the river for nearly 2 years now, surviving on scraps, kindness, and a strong will to see another day. That morning, as Marla stirred from her uneasy sleep, the usual sounds of birds and soft water flow were broken by something jarring. A loud splash echoed through the air, followed by the unmistakable sound of screeching tires, then silence. Jolted to attention, Marla rose, her bones stiff and aching. She scanned the water, eyes squinting against the early light, and saw something horrifying. A black luxury car had veered off the bridge and plunged into the river. Only the back end of the vehicle remained above the surface, and it was sinking fast. For a moment, panic froze her. Her instinct screamed at her to run, to stay out of it. But then she saw movement. Inside the car, a man was trapped, pounding on the window with frantic fists. Without another thought, Marla tore off her outer blanket and ran toward the water. She didn't consider the weight of her decisions, or how a frail body might fail her. All that mattered was that someone was going to drown if she did nothing. The icy current seized her as soon as she jumped in. But she fought it, stroke after desperate stroke, toward the sinking vehicle. The car was now almost fully submerged, the driver's window underwater. Marla could see the man inside, his face pale, his eyes wild with fear. She pulled at the handle, but it was locked. She looked around wildly, then swam back to the shore, grabbed a large rock, and swam back. With every ounce of strength, she slammed the rock against the side, window again and again until finally the glass gave way, water rushing in instantly. The man gasped and tried to crawl out, but his seatbelt held him down. Marla reached in, her fingers numb, and found the buckle. It wouldn't budge. She dove under again, took one breath, and forced herself back in. She used the rock to smash at the buckle until, miraculously, it snapped open. She pulled him out as the car sank fully beneath them. The current dragged them downstream, but Marla clung to the man's collar, paddling fiercely until they reached a shallow bank. She coughed, choking on water, and the man lay unconscious beside her. She turned him over and pounded on his chest, remembering something she'd seen in a CPR poster years ago. He coughed. Water poured from his mouth. Then, with a weak groan, he opened his eyes. Who are you?" he whispered. Marla didn't answer. She was too busy sobbing with relief. An ambulance arrived minutes later, summoned by a jogger who had seen the car go off the bridge. Paramedics rushed to the man, and police took Marla aside. She sat quietly, shivering, watching them work. Someone brought her a blanket. The man was placed on a stretcher, but he kept looking back at her. By evening, Marla had returned to her spot under the bridge, convinced the moment had passed and life would continue as before. But it didn't. The next morning, a sleek black car pulled up near her riverbank shelter. Out stepped the man she had saved, cleaned up, dressed in an expensive suit, eyes now sharp and focused. Alongside him were 2 journalists and a woman with a camera. "I found you," he said softly. "I had to." Marla blinked. "You didn't have to do anything." "Yes, I did," he replied. "You saved my life." She nodded, unsure what to say. "My name is Damien Sinclair. I run Sinclair Enterprises. That car you pulled me out of was my company vehicle. I was heading to the airport for a shareholders meeting. If you hadn't been there." He paused, his voice cracking. Marla tried to downplay it. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," he said firmly. "They wouldn't have." He turned to the camera crew and nodded. "This is the woman who saved my life. I owe her everything." That day, a story aired across every major news network. Billionaire trapped in river saved by homeless woman. Marla's picture was everywhere, her soaked, shivering frame next to a sinking car, captured by the jogger's phone. The next day, Damien returned. "You're not staying here anymore," he said. "I have nowhere else to go," she whispered. "You do now." He offered her his hand. With tears in her eyes, she took it. Marla was taken to a hotel first, then later given a small furnished apartment. Damien arranged everything: new clothes, medical checkups, even therapy for the trauma. But what shocked the world even more was what he did next. At a press conference weeks later, Damien stood before a crowd with Marla beside him. "Heroes don't always wear capes," he said. "Sometimes they live under bridges, forgotten by society. I plan to change that." He announced the creation of the Marla Foundation, dedicated to helping homeless women and men rebuild their lives. It would offer housing, training, job placement, and counseling services. Marla, who once had nothing, was made the first director. Reporters clamored to ask her questions, but she simply smiled and said, "I just did what my heart told me." Months passed. Marla blossomed into a role, using her past not as a curse, but as a guiding light. She worked with people just like she had once been, lost, broken, discarded by society. Her story inspired thousands. But for Marla, none of it was about the fame or the money. It was about that moment by the river, where she chose to act, not out of hope for reward, but from a belief that one life mattered enough to risk her own. And that, truly, was unbelievable.